Before Srimati talks, we talked so much about Lungi, so much we learned about Lungis, and Kannur Lungi weavers have put up their stall. So whoever has not got Lungi, start wearing from today, and if you want to give someone, please do encourage the weavers. So I've come from Kannur, they'll be here today and tomorrow. It's right there at the reception area, and said they have some stalls. And while we were doing the show, the bag, many bags of Lungis, and Devi is the expert, and Srimati wasn't there. The young boy Kruti and the collection department mixed up. And I said, Devi, you should be knowing which is hand woven, which is a. She said, no, they make these holes, I can't make it. I didn't understand what it was, so we understand. It got mixed up, and of course we sorted out the two areas that you see. And Srimati Mohan, and after you finish, I want to introduce Mohan.
Chitra, for this wonderful opportunity for working there. As you know, I quit IT and came into and I came into the textile research was always there, but I never thought I'll get into full time like this. The whole thing, it's been a great learning experience for me as well. So my topic today is very light, okay, and I'm going to show you a lot of videos. What I saw in the cluster. The seminar paper will be published along with the rest of the seminar papers of 1994. So I'm not going to talk about the history of Real Madras or how it made it, because everyone knows. See, I think what from the particular one of the learnings when you actually work as a business consultant in an IT company is one thing: you have to take care of all your stakeholders, not just academics alone. You have to look into what the business wants. Even one feature, if you do in an IT system, it has to be, because they work under a budget, and it will be a priority feature or a nice to have feature. So that that is the kind of thing which goes into everything, right? I mean, everyone has they have competition against powerloom. The wages are not paid. We've seen it. So what this Real Madras handkerchief, that was the only fabric which was exported from Madras to Nigeria. Okay, and it was done. Of course, we had the history, and he's my guru. After reading his book, the first book I got for this project was this Cornwall House, and happily I went running to Debbie and showed her, see, look at this book, and she also got run the book. So, we started off that book, and the great thing is, because we have someone who has written about the Tamil coast and who has put in a lot of efforts. Always we have only the British records to go back to. When you see, we've never bothered to look at the other records. So it is like Bible to us, and it is a great opportunity, sir. And I really feel blessed that I actually presented before you. So the Real Madras handkerchief. So what happened? I told you about the history. We've seen how the major exporters have made money. Madras was named after a place. Chiddadiripet was done, Chinnatharipeta was done because they brought in the weavers to the town. And of course, you have everywhere you look at, you have Palayakat lungis, you have Madras lungis, you have Santong lungis. Everything is named after the place of production. And when you see the entire Coromandel coast, right from Cape Comorin to Sir told, right, Bengal, and the four divisions what they had, each one, it was a group of handkerchiefs, right? So all of them had the group of handkerchiefs, and then if it was a 6, probably it was a Teleyanuman, 8 was a Real Madras handkerchief, 12 was a Lipi. So that is the connect between everything. The textile trade had a connect. It was painted, it was printed, it had a pattern to the weaving, it was yarn resist. A lot of things were there. So from my project perspective, it was very simple. I had to read up all the papers of 1994 seminar and then go visit and see what is happening now. Because even in 1994, when they started off they had collected a lot of samples. I'm amazed because Debbie has the passion for detailing, and she's collected the checks which they did in 1980, the amazing checks you will see. I think it is from her collection. All we had to do is to just curate it. So that brought in, and even then they had predicted that it was declining. The trend has started even by then. Why? Because two things came out of this learning. One is it is solely dependent on one country, Nigeria, right? So 1979, when the trade ban started, everything, they had a very restrictive import regime, everything was closed. So, dependence on one country brought it down. Number two is, people don't know actually what is happening on the other side of the market so that they can compete with the other, the fashions, what is happening there now, that is entirely lacking. Those parts also came in as a learning. So, understanding the history of the textile is basically putting together 1994 seminar papers where they are published. I hope you read it because it gives the connect between how the Real Madras handkerchiefs took the designs from Telia Rumals, the Mashipatnam Rumals, right? So, and Sir's paper on Urmal, he had presented in 1994, and so the whole coast was there. You had to understand the cultural history of the textile as well. How did they wear it? What happened during these 25 years? A visit to all the clusters, and then what is the reason for decline? So I'm going to show videos of. I'm just going to walk you through the clusters. So next one. Next. So I told you about this group of handkerchiefs. This is not very. This is actually a bandana of T.H. Henley. He had it woven, with his personal signature on it. This is from the VM, the Victoria and Albert Museum. So it is very natural that all these Real Madras handkerchiefs, that is 36-inch yard into 8, right? Cut into 8, and they wear it as wrappers in hips, and the extra goes into the head ties. That is the way they look it. And the moment I stepped into Kadalur to see the first time I'm going to the Weaving Society to see that, the street was called Ceylon Street. I was like so excited, and so I asked them, what is this? And is it Ceylon, sir? This is, yeah, people used to sell 12 lungis. That was called the Ceylon. So the connect is there. We refuse to look at it, right? You just have to look at what is happening now. So I just wanted to
just one minute for the audience. I just wish to mention, you see, every sixth fold you will find the logo stamped. Okay? And Rosemary Cyril, who was working, she has neatly identified at every sixth fold. So it was cut in 6 pieces, but at one stretch it's produced. So this is for the information.
Yeah. So I think that is a legacy. I just wanted to show, sir. So in Real Madras handkerchiefs, this was done by an exporter called Birdsell. They wove their Intorica logo here. That connects a lot, right? So Intorica meant India to Africa. That was the textile which went from here. You can see that is being woven here. I think it is just a takeoff from like a signature, what they put in, basically for branding. But I thought, that's a nice way of. You've seen the ethnic identity. Actually, how do they wear their wrappers? That was then, and now there are a lot of women associations out in the UK, US who are very even now. It was a slave. It was a dress for a slave earlier, and later on when the slave trade was abolished, it became a marker of identity for people. So that is the way they dress, right? It's visually very appealing, and you can see any kind of the Indo-Western African textiles. Iwat it's called. So you can actually look at the textiles and they are apart. Each tribe they dress differently, and this is the way they dress. The Nigerian Women's Association. So I told you this particular textile went for the Ijo, Igbo, and the Kalabari tribes. So that is the Kalabari tribe. They are wearing something called a pellet bite. The pellet and colors are like navy blue, red, the white. So those are the colors which of the Telia Romans. Basically, you can actually find a lot lot of similarity between those two fabrics. And then the Nigerian market, when they did, all these colors, like bright colors, the yellows, the reds, the navy blue, the chocolate brown, and those are the colors which went. That is the difference when you look. Every checks and patterns looks very similar, but when you see bleeding Madras, it's totally different. It was for a different market. It was for US. The colors are much softer, and Madras checks had a different thing. Telliyarumas had a different flavor to it. That is the crux of the whole thing. The group of handkerchiefs, which was done through the post, but served different markets, different kinds of production methods, and the fabric was in a different size altogether. So where does RMHT export stand now? That is my scenario, right? So there is a primary research and of course a secondary research of doing it. So when you actually look into the handloom export HEPC's numbers, see, actually they have 5 different classes of putting in fabrics, made-ups, and all that. So this actually goes as a part of the fabrics from 10.40 in 2013. It is just a mere 0.57%. So the whole the thing is, that was when 2013 all the exporters closed down their business because Nigeria market was very risky. No one paid them. It had become a credit market, and by then a lot of changes in the market also, because when they started off, they started with the checks, and then it moved on to 1960s. It moved on to the RMHK fancy, which had an art silk border like this, the one I showed you, right, with the jacquards. So that was done by Metur Birdsell, and they were one of the pioneers who did it, and Mohan sir and Bertul Subramaniam sir, he's here. He's the only master weaver who's doing real Madras and handkerchief in Chirala. So, I had a chance to meet up with him and see what exactly, he's sitting on a pile of, yardage, basically because there is no market there. And I told him I'll wear it as a blouse. So, you can cut up 1 yard and actually, there are so many other things. So when Mr. Sundar came in and when he saw this pellet bed and said, why don't we do it as a table cloth? That is the way forward, right? We have to look at all those things. So the whole the thing is, it's just 0.5% of the fabric category. I don't, markets are changing. It will change. So next, they had a line item because probably before 60 years, that was when RMHK was exported so much, and they wanted a line item. Now it is not required. But what is happening is all the real Madras handkerchiefs, those people have gone into shirting, right? That is what the market wants. So you cannot blame anyone for the whole thing because it is just the scenario which is going in. So Nigeria, of course, it doesn't even come into the top 10 because it is not there. Of course, Spain is there. I can see the connector to Spain now as one of the major exporters. And then this is it is lost its identity. This is Intorica. The name was coined by Norman Frolic, who actually came in here to set up the Metur Birdsell, and then they got the yarn for the Nigerian market because Nigerian market, though the country was going through a lot of military and political problems, the people are very traditional. It was a very rich community by itself. And all I could learn is basically all this oral history came in from the exporters. The person whom I met, he's not here today, is unwell, and he worked with Norman Frolic from 67 onwards. And he told me how he inspired, somebody, a German came from there to set up an office here, and then how he finally he went and stayed in Satyavedu, and he died in Madras. His wife actually set up the Sherwood Hall School. They've given their life to their whole thing, and that connect was always there. So I told you about this. The trade ban happened, and the powerloom alternatives have invaded everywhere because they want this flashy rayon stuff also at a better price. 40% import duty on clothes. Will you buy it? I will not. Okay, so and the illusion of fashion, right? So and that but the interesting part is we have the history here. It is not. It is just a matter of documenting the whole thing and taking it in a different level. Is what I am thinking. See, this one I got it from Batu sir. This is how the Birdsell used to give the order to them, and I can see 5-digit phone numbers here. So from Greeks Road, Major Birdsell. So they used to. I mean, among the swatches of the colors, he said bee red. What is bee red? It's bright red. He will say so. So those kinds of languages and the particular language they have for giving a color in explaining the design. And this is what motif is this? It's called a Rolls Royce motif. Yeah, because it was very expensive. That's why. And this is I just put in only one on the seminar paper. You can actually look up for all the other motifs because I just wanted to give you a hint of what we are going to see. Now I'm going to walk through what I saw in all the clusters. That is more important for you to understand and appreciate. So and of course, so I was telling you about how this whole fabric changed from plates to RMHK fancy, and then the embroidery thing came in. So a lot of exporters did this embroidery on the woven fabrics because the embroidered motifs were too big and it could not be open. Because they are also very tall and very well built people. They used to wear heavy motifs. So this was actually, this is one of the designs. Even now it is in demand from the Women's Association. Around Chowk is basically of the community. It is embroidered, hand embroidered on that. So when Metu Birdsell used to give the embroidery pieces to the people in Satyavedu or even Anakaputur, the people, the embroiders were there, they used to make a stencil, like a rubber stamp, and give it, because if you give a design it will go out in the market, right? It's very competitive. So they wanted to guard their design, so they used to put a stamp and then give it to the weavers. He will do the embroidery and give it back. So many things they do for preserving the market. At one point of time, they sent chartered flights from Madras to Madras to London. So those were the good olden days. And if you actually see people who have made money, right, out of Madras Techs, okay, the governor and Captain Lila, and a lot of other people, they have got established really good. Now they made money in handloom and they've invested in hotels. In Chennai, actually, you can see. So the next one is, now when we look into the cluster, so we looked at what happened during the clusters, where all they went, Bobby Sumberg and a lot of other people who have actually presented the papers, amazing work they've done. They went and stayed in Metapalam, observed all the process, and they've done enough. I mean, Joy and Asia, there are enough materials. It is just drawing which parts we want from all these people. So when we went into Chirala, what happened was, everywhere you walk down the road, you hear the clack, clack, clack sounds. It's so nice. So they do yardage, they do shirtings. Of course, it has become the town for saris now, because Pavanam also, it is the best of the Kanchi cottons come from Chirala now. That is the farthest part. So I don't know whether Bhaskar will give me. So and the next one. So Chirala, I'm just going to show you the weaver of Mr. Bodo Subramaniam, who is doing the Lemula sandwiches. No, the play. which actually did lot of RMHK was Satyavedu, R&D, Nagari, Tirthani, then of course all the areas of Chirala, what we saw, Pandilapalli, Vetapalam, Jandrapet, Hastinapuram. Correct, no sir? Okay, so all these areas, they do that entire work, and of course Norman Froelich also established Salem as one of the centers when the Jacquard thing was done, and so he developed that market for the RMHK fancy.
The demand was for Vetapalam.
Vetapalam, yeah.
Yes.
Vetapalam was
The world market.
World market was
Vetapalam. What did they do?
Why Vetapalam?
You see, they had, I'm told that when I visited, along with my colleague, a Swiss specialist in textiles. In fact, I know to speak Telugu, but I don't read or write. So that was my advantage. So I spoke to them. They said, for around 8 generations we are doing. And even my kid who is going to school will tell you now that I interviewed that small girl. I was so shocked that she jumped into it and started doing it so well. About 11-year-old girl weaving along with her grandmother and mother, who are just about, one is around 65, the other around 40. So they are trained so well at a young age, and it was not, she was going to school, and she said she is going to an English medium school, and I could speak. She wanted to speak only in English, but I said that speak in Telugu, and then we have. So that is the what you call.
So the discipline and the quality.
Yes, quality.
So, as he said, the average age of the weaver is now 40. No one wants to take it up. There were good olden days, and Baddu sir actually has one bureau full of all the motifs stored, all that he's already done. He's got all the samples which is made. It was very heartening to see. Very few people do that. Even when I went and spent time in Birdsell asking for the samples, when they closed on the division, I believe they had a huge design directory which they threw it. No one knew about the value of the sample or the processes of what we can do later on. So obviously money making is not the only thing of exporters, but I think you have to look at something else if you have to carry it on forward, the legacy of a textile, which I think consciously each one of us should do. They've collected all the samples. Now we have beautiful samples, of all the pellet bites, how the whole fabric was cut in washer and wet. They used to cut the fabric to give the transparency of the fabric. We showed you, that was the pellet bite. It gave the original flavor of the Calabaris, what they were doing onto the textiles, and it was done here. And the other area where RMHK was done, not now. So it was called the Nagari, Valaja, Narayanam sectors. So if you walk into the Valaja is one area where they have 99 weavers still left. But they call it as patti marble, and the particular design, I don't know why they call it patti marble, because patti, I think, so this is a 70-year-old man who earns about 700 rupees for 15 days, all outsourced, so very equitable. But the whole thing is, when you walk into a weaver's house or something, it doesn't matter, they will offer you lemon juice, they will offer you everything, that you are put to shame, that they are so forthcoming and they show you all the designs. You go barge in showing that what are you doing, you will never allow anyone into your house, right, like that, if you are, especially when you are weaving or something, they are so open about the whole thing, and end of the day, that is what hits you. And I said, it is so nice, he gave me one sample of this Patima, he didn't, I said 100 rupees you take, sir, no, he said no. So, these people, because RMHK was not profitable, they have gone into silk weaving, all these people, and they still do it by adai. It is not like the jacquard, so how beautiful mangoes you've got, right? So it is there. And then the dyeing patti marble is again a 2-minute video of this weaver. Yeah. breed which which has about 4,000 weaves or something, right? So it is all done by women. Why does the lungi design change? Because it is very painful to change the entire design, right? So they have that resistance, and you have to lose them to offer more money to change their designs, right? That is what basic things we can do. You can just skip to the next one. So this is the Tirutani Nagari Mathur. I just wanted to show how this Katari design is done on power loops. Everything pakka they are done. And this is the shirting material which they do. And what I noticed as a novice when I go, the weavers actually they can't handle a power loom or an auto loom. It is the youngsters or the youngsters or the people who come in, because it is like it's like asking a mod to use a smartphone. Simple. They have a block. They can't use it. They cannot, except weaving, they can't do anything else. But power loom, I'm saying that there are a lot of pre-activities which actually you have to appreciate. I mean, I'm not saying that there are a lot of things which you set up. A guy mans 4 looms at one point of time, and it is also equally time-consuming, right? So the way it is done, all the process till weaving, it's the same for them. That is what they say. But one has to appreciate the advantage of the handlooms, and these are the things which are being done for Australian market. Beautiful tartans it's going, and what will happen? They have an auto loom. I just wanted to show you the expertise of a weaver, of a 70-year-old weaver who has been weaving RMHK for 16 years. Can you just play that video? The demand for export is so high that they can't make it in handloom. If you have to export 35,000 meters in 60 days, what will you do? This is what you will do. See, that is handloom for you. I'm like amazed, this guy is so talented. Actually, you got this before. Okay, you have a Sankabir award for a beautiful sari. Do you have any Sankabir for weaving a lungi? That is you have something for a lungi or real Madras handkerchief. If ever you had recognized that skill which brought in so much of export money into our kitty, you would have made a difference. Okay, the next one is, of course, Masita ma'am covered all the lungis. So as a part of this, because it was connected with the checks and as a part of the program, we had to visit and see how it was closely linked to the real Madras designs. So, the same place, the Kurunji Padi and Kadalur clusters where we went, right, and Naduviran Pattu, Bhuvanagiri, all these smaller weaving societies. And we have a long history of lungis. Of course, when we went to Pulikat with Xavier, the Palekat lungi was the one which he showed me. Obviously, we couldn't get a sample of the Palekat lungi anywhere. It is not there. We got a Payadi lungi, 40-year-old, which is put on the management there. From one of the weaving societies, it was exported to Burma. So basically, the rubber people wear it, and they use it only for a day. It is burnt after that. A lot of smaller things you learn from actually being with weavers. So this particular chalk kursi was one of the leading brands in Kadalur, and this is the Madras and Nangur wedding couple wearing Sangumar. Actually, that is the lungi. So this is the one you mentioned. This is the button and the kodali. So everything is by Ana mark, Nandu mark. It's not Sangu mark. Everything hasn't changed. The trade hasn't changed. And I just wanted to show you how if you go into the Watson's museum, actually you can see. The lungi was called Santom. The lungi is called Madras. The lungi is called Labbes. Either based on the people or the place. And even now, there is a company called lungi.co.uk which sells lungis at some 20 pounds or something. it has the names of Santom, Triplicate, whatever you want to see, everything you can see there. And then it is not that the weaving societies are not restricted, they have the expertise. They did this, this natural dyed organic cotton lungi, the same weaving societies. It is just a matter of putting them across to the right export markets and supporting them with the rebates. You know, one of the things which they are getting hit is basically they don't have the rebates from the government coming them on time. Imagine a smaller weaving society like, you know, which has the share capital of 21 lakhs, the rebate is 11 lakhs spending. What will they do? And the weaving societies, if you go into that whole thing, they don't even have a POS for swiping your card. 1 year they are waiting from DNSC bank. Whom have we have to blame? Is it us or the way we recognize them? We have high regards for the viewers, but are we doing anything to that? So, and this is a glimpse of the reality of the handloom lungi weaving. The Qatari pattern is done mainly for West Bengal. It's called the data. We saw how the selvages are being fixed, right? So, for every inch, 10 inches, they have to move that selvage. This person only made the sari, the lungi sari. But the different, that is done in 60 by 40 yarn. So we told them, I don't know whether Radhakrishnan sir is here. Sir, please give him a. He represents this particular society. What I am saying is I am wearing 3 lungis today. Okay? 3 handloom lungis. It is 6 meters. They do 12 meters of lungis. It is just a matter of why can't we change? I mean, if people don't wear lungis and wear shorts, okay, we will wear saris. So he says that seasonal problems are also there. Pit looms, right? When it rains, everything's filled with water. We can't go inside. You saw now where we can take it 2 minutes. Okay. So the niche products, you know, always there. This is the lungi nuts, CO.uk. You can brand them and sell like this. People are not doing it now. Okay. And then next one, the artisanal clothing, which Kavita Parma took it to great heights. That is a case study which the Kuruchipadi cluster always does. And then the next one is, so the key findings, as I told you, one is, you know, there is over demand for export markets in all these markets, so they have to go to power loom. That is the reality. And then, of course, the Handloom Preservation Act actually has lungi listed as one of the 11 items which cannot be done on power loom. So basically, like, you know, if you do a 51-inch lungi on handloom, they can't replicate in power loom, but there is no enforcement. That is one of the things they say from the market, whatever we have heard, and then go before. And then, of course, the dependency on a single market spoiled the whole thing. Product diversification, you have to look at other diversification ways. And institutional channels have to provide market exploration and design intervention. I think it's like HPC does it. I think a lot of other people actually have to come in and help them out, like MIFT or a lot of. I mean, anyone can go out and do. We did a lungi sari without even knowing what design is, so that's okay. So, and I think the main important for me is when we do an academic research, always look at from the business point of view. How does it help the weaver end of the day to get a better wage, or does he sell well? That is the whole thing. And so this is the, ladies and gentlemen, never go out of fashion. Thank you. Now I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Marchala Mohan Rao. I went to Shirala and he's done phenomenal work. He's president of the Rashtriya Chenata Jana Samakhya. And he works with a lot of weaving societies. Now he actually will address us on whether the revival is possible and what exactly can be done now.
Good afternoon, all of you. Today we are discussing about the revival of RMHK. The history of RMHK, the importance of RMHK is already briefed by the Stephen G and Deborah. Now viewers are facing crisis in the domestic market. The same situation we faced in the year of 1994. At that time, in our Cheral area, all the looms engaged with the RMHK production. In the year of 1976 and 83, Nigerian government imposed the heavy duties on RMHK product and banned it due to the political situation. Civil administration captured by the military regime. So that with the spirit of the nationalism, they banned the imported goods. But our post-paid weavers are dependent on that RMHK production only at that time. Maybe it is check shirting or real madras handkerchief with art silk and zari, metallic yarn, whatever it may be, it is called as the RMHK. But weavers are also getting very less wages at that time. Unfortunately, one designer came to visit our Kerala. Her name is Bobby Sambar, through Madras Cross Foundation. She spent more than 15 days in Kerala. She visited many looms. She discussed with the weavers directly. She observed the jacquards, then discussed with the union leaders and master weavers and other buyers, all the people. Finally, she came to a decision. There is no other alternative except to divert the production. Immediately, she suggested to the MCF people at that time, Madam Deborah ji also there, Gitaram ji is there. They have given a simple order to Mr. Umiti Venageswara. He is a good designer. And he immediately spent full time on the designs. He made and they organized the exhibition at Egmore Co-op Hall. Diversification of the product like furnishing fabric, dress material. After that, all the looms changed to the material, not RMHK. All same pit loom with jacquard converted to the dress material production. It goes more than 15 years. Now, in our Cherala is having 11,500 looms, actually 1,500 looms in garment portion. Most of the looms, more than 10,000 looms is weaving silk saree or cotton by silk with 2 or 3 or 4 jacquards. In this context, not only Cherala, Madanapalli, Kanchivaram, Dharmavaram, Hindupur, Uppada. Anyway, all saree weavers are facing the problem with power loom. Which item they prepare, they produced on the loom, immediately power loom also made it and selling it as a handloom in the domestic market. It is the big problem. How we can face this problem? Anyway, the enforcement wing is not taking any interest to curtail this activity. They don't bother about the weaver. He may live or he may die. They don't bother. So, people who are working in the interest of the handloom sector, who are working in favor of the handloom weaver, those people can take the initiative to divert the products into other material. I mean, furnishing fabric, other dress materials. Just now, Srimati Mohanji told about lungi design as a saree. Some of the people are wearing. I have observed 3 or 4 women are wearing the saree, check sarees. Capital people are also selling it. In Cherala, some master weavers are also producing that check saree in silk. But it is not sufficient to survive the whole thousands of looms. There is a good chance market. We have the marketing potentiality in the domestic market. No need to export to abroad. We are having more than 70 crores of women. More than 70 crores of women. Even though we are not getting 0.5% of the production chance. We should think in this way to change the designing pattern, to change the varieties with flora and fauna in related with the environment and nature. It is more important. What we observe since centuries, each and every design is related to the nature. You please go through that Kaliaroma or RMHK, anything. It is clearly says to us, if you can observe that, it is very, very close to the nature. Maybe flora or fauna or any environmental relation. Now, the present designs are not observing that. If you can observe that, Dr. Salim Ali, the environmental scientist, explained about the 1800s of birds and animals. If we can take that on the loom, every 1 month, we can found one modern design, a new design. So, here I observed one or two designers and NIFT people are also here sitting. On behalf of the reading community, we are humbly requesting the designers to take risk, a little bit risk, with the help of the MCF or Darshan Chitra or any other organization to research, to carry forward the old designs in relation with the nature for the future generation and viewers' livelihood, to protect the viewers' livelihood. It is more important so that RMHK, it may be with artship, it may be or jerry or only 60 by 40 or 40 by 40. RMHK is having 7 types of, using the 7 types of yarn. 26 count, 28 count, 30 count, 36 count, 38, 40 count, 60 count, 48 count. If we can view this whole pattern of the count of yarn, the designs are also very easily we can produce on the looms, hand looms, but it should need some help to the viewers. Without designers' help, viewers only cannot do this work. There is a good chance, in my opinion, for the future livelihoods of the hand community. RMHK actually in Kerala area, hundreds of years ago, you know the Telia War. Somebody also says about Pattimar. Before using the jacquard machines and punching machines, in our area, Kerala weavers are habituated to pull the ropes with jara for designing. One child sit in front of the loom, father or mother are weaving, the child will pull the rope for designing. It is Pattimar. Before that, Buddha Basi, area woman, double effect, these are all same, but changing the periods and technology, the traditional technology, changing the traditional technology from one generation to one generation, the techniques also change. So, first of all, the weavers on Telia Roman, first it is called Roman, then Telia Roman, then Buddha Basi, after that Pattimarku, then jacquard. It is fixed as a real Madras handkerchief. In this context, there is a need to do on the same people to change the designing pattern with the old traditional Pattimarku designs along with the new fashion trend. I mean with Dhabi and jacquard. In this way, I am humbly requesting the designers, particularly NIFT people, to send your students to the viewers clusters to found the ways to survive the hand sector. Thank you very much.
Are the weavers of these 10,000 looms, are they teaching their children to weave also? Besides that in the school?
Madam asking, viewers are the old viewers are teaching the tradition to their children or not? Many people are not interested to do the same work because of earnings is very low.
So they're not teaching their children?
No. Even 4 or 5% are teaching. Now the present trend is changing. How it is changing, I can say a little bit, 1 or 2 minutes, I can take your time. Recently I visited Opada to campaign against the GST on handloom products. Many people came. I observed 2 persons, they are very young. Other people are all above 50 or 55 or 60 or 70. Only 2 persons, they are young, they are age about 23 or 25. Yes. After finishing my explanation about the GST, why we are against to the GST, after that I asked them what you are doing. They told me they studied, one person studied MTech, one person studied BTech computer. They went for job in Hyderabad. They worked more than 1 year and 3 months. They get only 15,000 rupees. They are paying 5,000 rupees for their rent and food. Only 10,000 rupees they are having. But when they came to Uppada, their own village, they are observing more than 1,500 rupees the viewers are getting in their local village, own village, by weaving profession. So immediately they think and they came back, they resigned to the post, they came back and now they are weaving.
Exception.
In this way in Pochampalli also, now they are getting 20,000 rupees, 25,000 rupees for 1 month. People are coming back to the weaving profession from other fruit vendors, storekeepers, watchmen. Last 10 years back they went to that jobs. Again they are coming back to the Pochampalli village and Gattupal and Patupaka. They are working their own, they are engaging with their own looms. They are weaving, they are getting more than 30,000 rupees. Why I am explaining this situation. When they are getting better wages for their survival, for their livelihood, to maintain their family, people will come.
True. Yeah.
Last 10 years back, this much wage, they won't get this much wage. In Kerala also. Now we are facing good, very crisis, unemployment. More than 19 crores of youth people unemployed in our India. 19 crore. In between age group of 15 to 29. So that there is no other alternative for the rural employment or any employment except only way is handicrafts and handlooms. This is my opinion, personal. I have a strong opinion on this issue.
Thank you, sir. You clearly explained, what is to be done in the future and how new designs have to be introduced. So people who are in the design sector, researchers, scholars, please take note of that. Be in touch. Visit some of these clusters and do whatever you can. I never knew there was masters in development. We have a young research scholar, Ritu Vaishnav from IIM Bangalore. I really didn't know. When I went through that, it says she did a master's from Asim Premji University, master's in development. So I really want more young Indian students to do this master, because it's a simple word, development, that's what we need now. So she has research projects on the different subjects like labor, migration, education and livelihoods. She has worked with multiple agencies like European Union, UK High Commission, Planning Department, Government of Karnataka. She's worked both with development sector and NGOs. And she's right now associated with project under Professor Suresh Bhaktimola, who is on, which is about handloom sector. What I liked is they are doing entrepreneurship and weaver. That's her study, which is the most wanted. A seminar like this is not for the city bred people or handloom conscious people. It's more to take it forward for the viewers, see what the problems are and connect people. That's why I think these kind of seminars are relevant. It is to connect the actual viewers and the mid-level people and those who are really passionate about handloom. Welcome Ritu. I should have actually wrote this in the last minute and we are very happy here.
Hi, I'm Ritu and I'm here from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Currently, I'm working with Professor Tamilnadu and I recently joined this project, but it has got, I can't get off this topic day in, day out. I'll just brief you a little about what the project is. We are trying to understand the dynamics, or put it simply, understand the entrepreneurial aspect of weaving. We mostly deal with master weavers who are being considered as the nodal entity in the whole dynamics of the entrepreneurial aspect of weaving. I'll just take you through. So I want this presentation not only from my side, as I like someone calling me young, but as I'm here to learn from all of you. Anytime, any point of time you want to interact, you want to stop, please do, and please give in your comments, suggestions at any point of time in the presentation. The presentation is just for the steering of my thoughts and not for any formal conversation. Yeah. So, I'd like to give you a brief on the recent visit of mine. That was in the Pochampalli cluster of Andhra Pradesh. Most of you are aware of it. In Pochampalli cluster, the major production is of silk sarees. Ikat design is the major design product of them. Over there, we found 2-3 important aspects which I would like to share with you. One is about some of the master weavers. So, over there is something called Pochampalli Park, which was made or created by 35 master weavers. So, master weavers are the people who, we can say, hire other weavers for their production. They take the orders from retailers, big business houses, exporters, other people who are demanding the product, and then they go to the weavers and have the products done. They are in brief master weavers. Over there, 35 master weavers came together and made this whole Pochampalli Handloom Park, which created a buzz which got attention of policymakers, of business people, of apparel brands, and very many people who could push or who could have impact on demand. It created demand, and because it created demand, there are some aspects that I will take which were the impact of that demand created. Along with that handloom part, we also have other dynamics going on, because which were again we can say influenced or related to the same phenomena, which again created more demand, and that's when we see Pochampalli becoming the commercial hub for a particular type. Yes. In that study, so how we approached was our professor. He did his PhD in Pochampalli cluster, and over there when he took the interviews, the best way to capture about longevity of any entrepreneur in a section is to study over time whether they are still in that sector, what is the status of them. So professor took interviews, professor must have met them in his during his thesis period. So he gave us a list of 37 master weavers who were working at that point of time, I'm talking about 15-20 years back. We went back and traced them down, and out of 37, 38, we could trace 25 to 28 people who are still in the sector, working on a level higher than they were working before. Most of them have started their own venture, and they are master weavers now, and most of them have started exports. They say export has been a major game changer for them. So that's the story of longevity in Pochampalli cluster for those 37, 38 people. They were randomized samples. So yes, the second part, my professor took your interviews years ago when we talked, when you spoke to those master weavers that, do you remember something these many years before something happened, someone must have come, spoke to you. Some of them did remember, but most of them had this idea that, okay, many researchers come here and they take interviews, they take information about what is it about. And when we speak of entrepreneurship, of business, they're like, okay, let's talk, come, we'll sit and have a talk, we want to, because that's the area we want to explore. We have skills, we have understanding of the product, but we want understanding on market. And that's the area which even I think viewers want, and like sir very interestingly said, that demand is there, market is there, positive understanding or positive thinking about demand is there. How to bridge is now a question. How do you bridge? So I will also get to that. Finding to that, I would also like to take up the perception of market by different entrepreneurs. So I would section them into three categories. One are those who take entrepreneurship as an extension of their passion. What they want to do is, because I am working in ikat and I am a master weaver, I am an entrepreneur, I am passionate about this particular product and I want to take this art forward. So when I come to this passion, the category of my customer is the high-end purchase capacity people who can afford a high-end product, where my innovations are higher. And when my innovations are higher, I take more risk. When I take more risk, the production cost is higher. So I have a particular segment of customer when I am talking about art or extension of art. The other segment is the person who is by lineage or by generation in this and they want to take it up as a business. Their segment of customer mostly is the middle range income group who can afford these brands or these sarees or products for an occasion, let's say, or particular type of place they want to wear. So their customer segment is not too much bent on innovations. So that's one important aspect that we found out, and that I guess is a major distinguisher between how the how the promotion of that particular business happens. This can also be contrasted with what we see in the cooperatives, like many of the scholars here said. The failure of cooperative to really tackle the needs of weaver. So we have also seen that cooperatives were not able to first incorporate most of the weavers, like 20% of the weaver community hardly was part of the cooperatives. And when there is this type of bridge, we need intervention in the space out of cooperatives. That's the business part, which most of the weavers are involved in. Role of network, so like I said, in Pochamali cluster, 35 master weavers came in and had this and created this whole Pochamali handloom path, which created a buzz. The underlying thing that happened there was the pool of network that came together that helped them create the pool of resources, let's say market, connects, raw material and other things, which came into one place, and now they have a larger entity called the handloom park, where they can have larger productions, larger demand, cater to larger demands, less turnaround time. All these are the results of this higher pool, whereas the capacity of an individual weaver would not be of this length. In this part, I would also like to say that this type of small clusters or small partnering happened in the outside of the handloom park as well, where small groups of weavers started working together, and they also created their own pool, which resulted again into higher production, catering to higher demand, and so they could align with the market basically. Because they could do this, I'll come to the next point of exploring new market. Because when you have the confidence that you can now cater to the demands, you explore new markets. By this I mean exports. By this I mean product diversification. In product diversification, it's not only the fabric, the finished product like sari or salwar kurta or the suit material, but also the mix of designs. I saw ikat design mixed with kanji design, checks design mixed with ikat design. These kind of experiments were done in the smaller groups, but that could only happen when there were larger resources or when they had the capacity to take risk. This is very important part on when we talk about bringing the product of a weaver to the market, because unless the product diversification or innovation is done, it is very difficult to sustain in a competitive market. Whether or not it is small, whether or not it is big, market by itself has competition. A very interesting aspect of what has changed in business is WhatsApp and Facebook. So now the information flow from a master weaver to a weaver is in seconds. It takes about 1 second to, if I take a design, if I am a master weaver, if I want to convey just the design to my weavers, I just have to click the picture and send the picture to my 10 weavers and ask who can do it, and they will bid. So this happens over a period of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and here you go, your business starts. So the information flow has tremendously increased, so is competition, and so is vulnerability again. The vulnerability comes because this has, again, so it can flow to the power looms. But like I earlier said about the category of the entrepreneur, how they see market, those who are very keen on innovation, on producing the handloom for the particular group, they are not very afraid, because they say that people who buy handloom buy it for the feel of it. They buy it for the very virtue of it. So the power loom can copy it, but they cannot give the feel that you get with handloom. So they are not our competition. On the other hand, those who are not very keen on innovation do see power loom as a like grave competition. Like they see it as enemy. They don't like it. Yes, technology has really helped them also evolve their working patterns. It has also impacted. So the work hours or the information flow about the working dynamics also flow very fast in the cluster. So there is less chance of exploitation of a level, because if there are 4 weavers in a community, they are connected so well through the technology that they know what other person is weaving and at what cost. So it is difficult to really break that connectivity now. About next generation, I heard, so when it comes to this next generation, I had different experiences. One was definitely about the next generation going and going outside, doing their job in some other sector and exploring new things and not wanting to come into the weaving, because one, the dignity part, they don't see much as a, they see the other IT jobs as more dignified, like our kids are outside, they're doing the IT job, and if you don't want them to be in weaving. But they come back, they do come back. The other part about this is those who study, but they definitely come back after an experiment of 4 or 5 years in their early career, and they come back because now the demands have rise. It also has some social impact which I will come to later, but it has in next generation joining the weaving, it had mixed reaction in the cluster. Important part of next generation is we have 2 categories. The next generation is in master weaver is very much interested because they have business running, but the next generation of the weaver who weave under a master weaver are not very keen on it. So that's a very interesting fact that we are, if going forward, if we just escalated 10 years, what I mean to say is we will have more entrepreneurs and people wanting to do business in handloom than people weaving. Some of the, like the market gap that I spoke about, some of the experiments or some of the new startups that have come, people have started working on handloom as an entrepreneur. Young talent is getting into handloom now. One of the examples for it is Fabric of Tamilnadu. The place I work is called NS Raghavan Center for Entrepreneurial Learning, and we are incubator and we incubate the new startups. One of our startup is Fabric of Tamilnadu. They have done pretty well. So Fabric of Tamilnadu, what they do is they procure the fabrics from the weavers and Weavers Association, and they connect them to the brands or apparels. So the conversion is not happening at Fabric of Tamilnadu or weavers. The conversion is on the apparel brands that take it. So that's creating higher demand. So one question that we ask them is, how do you cater to the larger demands, quality, quantity, assurances, how do you cater to it? So one thing is systematizing the process has helped them really connect those and have a inventory of their own. So that's the key point, that the intervention area which was really required. And I guess the more we go forward, the more models like this will come up, and the gap of larger demand, catering to a larger demand has an option or has some future if seeing what we have learned. Now, touching upon the social aspects of how this whole dynamic or the changing dynamic or revolution has taken into shape into the social section. So I'll take reverse migration first. Most important part of what has happened because of Pochampalli Handloom Park is they got attraction of, like I said, many intellectuals, policymakers, business, and very many people. So this has created demand. Now what has happened is, typically we see a particular community involved in weaving. In Pochampalli it is typically Padmashali community. So when they have a whole network created, it's very difficult or minimum of the other communities getting into weaving or learning that skill because they don't have any generational or connect to that particular profession. Now what has happened in Pochampalli is these are avenues where people from other communities learn the skills and they become entrepreneurs. So 4 of them which we met were working at the handloom park and now have their own small scale loom of their own. So they are the weavers, independent weavers now. So this is how, and the people who went out, I'll just share a statement which was said by a weaver, who is not from the weaver community. His name is Vishnu and he does local journalism in that village. And he said, Madam, for weavers, the weaving is like tapasya, and we cannot. We treat it that way. We have also because it is tapasya, it's hard work. We have seen people migrate from here and do the work of dog catchers in metro cities. They went in buses, like he said, buses full of people used to go out of this village, and they would not return. They would settle there. It was again, I think Srimati told about the '94 that era when it was really a lean period of their business. But now the people who went to metro city or outside, the second generation of them are coming back. So we see those who went out as pharmacists, those who went out as drivers or other occupations are coming back and taking up weaving again. So this is what we have seen, and also avenues, reverse migration and avenues for other communities to get into the weaving profession. Gender roles, what we others also hinted upon. This is just one of the observations that I wanted to share, is that I have seen over there when they work, I have seen many of the weavers, many of the jobs done by both men and women, but designing or what you say, most specialized work in the weaving part. So it's not one act of weaving. It's many small acts that make the whole process of weaving. The very specialized, those acts that required specializations were mostly done by men, and women were seen very less or no. Mostly in designing, we did not see many women coming up. So definitely there is a gender part that plays into weaving process. So this is general what we understood from what we studied or what we observed at Pochampalli. I would like to have your comments, questions, suggestions, or anyone want to challenge what we have presented. I would love to answer or have your comments on that.
I wonder how many would like to have a discussion after lunch. I mean, we haven't provided lunch except for the speakers, but I think perhaps a discussion is necessary to look at some of the areas in which we have discussed. How many would be willing to come back? It's now 20 of 2. How many would be willing to come back at 2:30 for a more intimate discussion about some of the ideas that have come? Only 2 people? Okay. Then perhaps, if there are any questions, please stand up. If there are any questions for any of the speakers now, then I think we should approach those questions now.
I wanted to ask you, sir, what are the Nigerians using today when they have these rights from birth to death? Are they still using that they are, and that is still their burial. But what nobody mentioned, and I always thought it was quite curious. In the ban on the migration or the shipment to Nigeria, they got around it through the missionaries by shipping the cloth in Bibles.
Really?
I always remember
Did you
that
hear
being
what
a
she said?
particular point. Now, that was through missionaries or the Dutch. I think there was some particular group who were instrumental. Can you just explain that?
Actually, the Lutherans played a key role in this. Lutherans.
Lutherans, okay.
The Lutherans played a key role, and some documents are preserved now from Nigeria. Personal collection of papers of those Europeans who lived there, and now they are placed in Indian Ocean World Center, Big Al University in Montreal. Okay, if you visit the Indian Ocean World Center, the archivists will give you the collection, and it's very fascinating to see how we have done.
When did the band stop?
See, well, around 1920s, 30s there was.
1976.
But no, earlier also there was,
Also.
yeah, but it was for a brief period. Again in World War II there was, and later, of course, the end of the century.
I think we got some very good ideas from Ritu and her study, yes, on development. Because I think one has to look further and say, okay, how do we get mass into clusters? How do we get people interested like Pochampally? Because I think the government also, they gave the money. They gave the money. I mean, even I was asked to work on that, but I didn't. But, you know, they were reaching out to many, many people. And one thing that no one has talked about is processing. You know, today, when you do any fabric, it's the processing which gives the finish, which gives the non-wrinkleability, because people don't want to spend their time ironing today. It can change the whole look of the fabric, but no one has talked about processing for handlooms. I think that's something that definitely has to be looked at. And I think there are many ways in which we can work with handlooms. I think it needs a lot of thought and a lot of people getting together and really working with groups like what happened in Pochampally. Anyway, thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've learned something. And we're very, very pleased that everyone has come. I'd like again to thank Chola Finance for having funded this, supported us. They support us in other projects also. And I'd like to thank all our speakers for coming, and particularly Stephen and all these people who came at short notice, and Srimati and Suchitra Girish, who did our videos in the exhibition, and all the people who helped. So thank you again.